Hey world, welcome back to another episode of Be Inspired Podcast, where we're inspiring you to live the abundant life you deserve. What if the biggest thing holding you back isn't the lack of talent, opportunity, or resources? What if it's a story that you've been telling yourself for years? Because most people spend their lives trying to improve their circumstances. Very few stop to examine the beliefs, wounds, and experiences shaping the person making those decisions. Today's conversation is about leadership, purpose, and transformation. But more than that, it's about becoming the person capable of carrying the life you're asking for. Today, we have an awesome guest. We have Kenneth Kollasch. He's a third generation entrepreneur, author, and pastor that understands exactly what it's like to wear 100 hats in a day in your business. Whether you own a new startup, a franchise, a multi generational family business, Kenneth's coaching programs are your next best steps to doubling your business. We got Kenneth on the line here, coach, pastor, and everything else. Happy to have you, man. Welcome to the show, Kenneth.
Yeah, thank you, Samuel. It's great to be on the show. It's great to meet you, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
I like to start off with just not the regular um how did you get here or what led to you becoming an entrepreneur. Let's start off with, what is a belief you carried about yourself for years that you eventually discovered wasn't true?
Man, we're diving right in. This is gonna be the best conversation of my day so far. So I would say that I carried this belief for a long time. If anyone's familiar with the Enneagram out there, I carried this belief that as a 3 on the Enneagram, that if I accomplished a lot of really great things, then people would like me more. People want to be around me more, and that led to a lot of me actually just running over people to get the thing that I thought would make them like me. And yeah, it was no bueno, as my grandpa would say. So yeah, that was a belief that thankfully later on in my early 20s, I definitely had a moment where I was led to overcome that, but it was definitely a limiting belief that I held for a long time that undercut a lot of relationships and success that I was trying to have.
So how were you able to get through that limiting belief that held you hostage for so long?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I will give you two very, very truisms of not just that, but all these different beliefs that many different beliefs that I've had to confront over the years. The two things, the first one is people. It was people that helped me see that I had the limiting belief. And of course, it was maybe a little bit sharp and hard at the time, but it took somebody, and ended up being my wife. It took my wife, Caroline, whom we were dance partners at the time and obviously started dating eventually. But yeah, she helped me see that, oh, I think you're living life this way, and I don't think that lines up with what you actually want. And then the second point that I always make when people talk about overcoming beliefs and what helped me on my journey was always being in a growth stage. I was always reading books. I was always listening to shows like this, podcasts. I was always hungry to learn from people that I had thought were, so to speak, better than me or further along. And so I think the combo of having somebody close to me that I could be accountable to and that would show me my blind spots and always staying in a growth phase in my mind, even if I wasn't believing all the right things at the time, those two have always been at the foundation of me getting past limiting beliefs or things that really weren't true all along.
Yeah, especially, and I think that's a powerful thing because even as a new business owner, limiting beliefs is one of the things that we struggle with. Limiting beliefs, self-doubt, and that's just one of the things. Having a new business, you're struggling. All right, one day you're feeling like I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna make it. Then the next day you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna do this. I
Preach,
don't-
preach. So true.
so
Any business owner out there that's listening to you right now knows that is 100% true. Even if we've never told anybody, that's so true.
So, what is a pain in your life that ended up becoming part of your purpose?
That's right. Yes, yes, yes. So the honest answer, the pain in my life was this. I was trying to become a professional soccer player and kind of at all costs. And when I had made some really, really bad decisions coming out of high school, and I was going to immediately go and start playing abroad. And I made some bad decision. It literally cost me I had worked for, I think, 13 years at that point. Like from 5 to 18, I had only played soccer 6 days, 4 hours a day. And I had literally ruined it in in a few bad decisions. And it took me, um, it took me in those moments really reflecting and actually realizing what I wanted. And therefore, if I really want that, how do I need to actually live in order to achieve that and to realize that? And that was one of the most painful moments that I remember for years. I would lay in my bed thinking, why did I do that? Why did I make those decisions? And why did I trust those people? And, all the things that come in those moments of pain. But the reason that fueled what ended up becoming my purpose is because it really helped me refine, what do I actually want in life? And what am I actually willing to do to get that and to realize that? And thankfully, that was when I was only 20, 21 years old. But yeah, that was one of the most painful moments still, I think, to this day, one of the most painful learning moments that actually helped refine what inevitably became why I get up every day and what I even do in terms of my purpose now.
So tell me a little bit about what happened. Like what's the thing that happened to you that you just had to reevaluate, rethink it, and look at your life, reflect, and be like, all right, this is gonna be who I become in the future. So let me just reflect and learn from it.
Yes. So the few things I'll share in a second. At the time, what I really wanted was, of course, to be a professional soccer player.
Yeah.
And what I did was what I thought was that just being a really great soccer player was going to get me the opportunity to play professional soccer. And what I did not realize is that the decisions I was making to completely ignore my schooling, to get into like underage substance abuse, and to get into interacting with girls inappropriately in terms of like, as a Christian, like sex before marriage is not really a thing that I'm big on promoting. So like for me,
Yeah.
I was engaging in that before I even found my faith. And that led to me, I had a girlfriend that we got pregnant early. So then therefore I immediately needed to make money. I was getting into drinking and pill abuse. And I was just doing all these things that I thought, even though it wasn't quote unquote affecting my soccer at the time, it
Yeah.
affected everything in my life, including the opportunities to actually play and travel abroad and play soccer. And so it was all these literally so dumb decisions that prevented me from, even though I was working really, really hard at it, prevented me from actually realizing the thing that I really wanted. And yeah, it was super, super painful.
Yeah, I can imagine that. That must have been a challenging portion of your life, being that you had to go through that, being in church, growing up. So, like, what are some of the feedback you get? Because I know sometimes as we grow up in church, like there's people looking up to you and they're wondering, oh, well, he's in church. Why is he doing all of this stuff? What's going on? So, what were some of the mindset that was going on with you to going through all of that, knowing that you're in church and then becoming who you are today, you know?
Yeah, well, I think there's the main thing that I would pull from that is I grew up in a way where we were, of course, we would go to church every now and again, but it really
Yeah.
wasn't, if I could put it on the priority list, it was probably somewhere 5 or below. Not because if somebody asked us, "Oh, like, you're a Christian." "Oh, yeah, I'm a Christian," or, "Oh, you like God." "Yeah, yeah, I love God. Yeah, he's great, Gave me this nice house and the ability to play soccer and stuff." And I would say it was really my mindset was that all the things I believed were very selfish beliefs. It was what the belief could do for me. And what what I realize is a lot of people, like my wife and others, eventually they helped me realize that my beliefs, even though some of them were rooted in the right things, the way I was believing them was the wrong way. It was a selfish way of believing it. It was, well, if I vote this way, or if I go to this church, or if I do these things, then I'm going to be rewarded. And so it was I believed it for selfish reasons. um, versus actually believing it because I believed it. And it's such a weird thing to say, but I didn't have the belief just because I actually believed it. I had the belief so that way it would get me something or do something for me. And that was a really hard truth to realize at some point, that man, I'm selfish at a level that I didn't even realize was possible. That was a key moment for me.
So this one is interesting because like when did you first realize or knowing that happened, right? How did you know that? How did you start achieving that helped you realize that healing was gonna be important to start achieving the things you wanted in your life?
Yeah, well, I think this takes me to the second. So I ended up turning down a soccer contract after realizing some of these things and working hard to get back into the soccer world. And I ended up turning down a soccer contract to stay stateside with my then fiance, now wife. And we ended up dancing and working together and traveling and competing as ballroom dance competitors. And we ended up winning this international championship in our division. And it was at that moment that I realized that the things that I thought I wanted wasn't really the thing that I wanted. So we accomplished these things, specifically the dance championship. And one of our coaches comes up afterwards and says, "Oh, isn't was it worth all the work? Was it worth all the money and the time?" And they were basically asking, like, asking me to justify, "Man, wasn't it worth it?" And I looked at him and I said, "This doesn't really feel like I thought it was going to feel. Like it's not that exciting." And I just kind of, you're in the moment, you take the pictures and you do the stuff, but you're on the inside kind of thinking, "Man, is this really what life's about? Like, is this really what I want, is to work really hard for 4 or 5 years at something, accomplish it, and then feel like this? Like, is that
Like
really what I'm meant
empty.
to?" Yeah, 100%. Like, is that what I'm really meant to do for the rest of my life, is chase something, get it, feel unfulfilled by it, and then do it all over again? And so thankfully, yeah, I think I was like 22, 23 at the time. And it was one of those moments where the paradigm shift happens and you start to change the way you work and change the way you invest your time and money and energy and the things you're learning from. You start to change what you're actually consuming so that way you can actually change, hopefully, the outcome, which thankfully in our case, we had consumed and achieved a lot of things early on that we realized didn't fulfill us. And so then when we changed the things that we were working towards and the podcasts and things we were consuming, it actually helped us find the things that would fulfill us, whether it was a big achievement in the world's eyes or not. It would be fulfilling to us, and that would be worth the work.
Okay. So you noticed that you needed to start having discipline in certain different areas and looking for purpose. So what would you say is something that people try to fix with discipline that actually requires healing?
I think for most people, it's what I term as accountability. It's basically just having a real relationship with someone. So for me, it happens to be, it's been like a pastor figure in my life. It's been my wife. It's been a best friend. It's been another entrepreneur that I can trust. It's been different in different seasons of my life. But I think the part that requires healing can only be revealed by somebody else being close enough to you to reveal it. I'm big on the fact that the best way to actually find those places of pain or hurt or fear or doubt, the places that are like that within us, are best revealed not by us looking in the mirror, but by us interacting and being in relationship with someone that we're close with, that we can be quote unquote naked with, that we can actually, they know what we really think and they know how we really are behind closed doors and they know what I like and I don't like and the mistakes I've made and the successes I've had. Like, they know the full picture. And those are the most healing moments. Actually, for me, the most healing moments have always come with someone. They've never really come for me on my own. Maybe that's just a me thing. Maybe I'm just not good enough to, heal me on my own. But yeah, for me, it's always come alongside one particular other person in that season of my life.
Yeah, and it's just like the people that you hang around with, you know?
Hmm.
You need that one person that will get in the face, and not all the people that hang around with you and say, "Oh, you're doing great," but that one person who actually would say, "Bro, you're jacking up right now. You need to fix
Yeah.
this," you know? And it sounds
Yeah.
like that person for you was your wife, at that point in your life.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And now I have a variety of people like that in different spheres. Like I've got somebody, obviously I have my wife and she sees everything. I've got people in the entrepreneurial space, that one in person in particular, that I trust with my real thoughts, like, "Hey man, things are going great." And then there's, "Hey, this is not going great and I'm really struggling right now." And then there's, the spiritual side where my pastor comes in. So I don't think it's always one person, but like to your point, it always starts, I think, with one person, especially
yeah.
when it comes to things like discipline or personal growth of any kind or professional growth. I think a lot of that, there's an origin person that's the first person you trust to tell you the real truth.
Yeah. And we talked about this a little bit earlier before the call about your identity and names. So, what's the difference between changing your behavior and changing your identity? Because new business owners, they're going through a identity crisis, whether it's finding purpose, delivering on the business, their identity matching online with who they are. So, what is the difference between those two things, changing your behavior and your identity?
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned it. This you're practically describing the entire thesis of why I wrote the book that I wrote during COVID. It's called Beating Average, and it's for teens and young adults. But it's funny how like many of the parents get the book and they're like, "This really like this part made me cry in it," and it's all about exactly addressing what you're talking about. Like the difference between what I do and who I am is substantial. There's a gigantic cavern between who you are and what you do in terms of where you actually derive your identity from. And if I'm a business owner, or I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm a professional, and I'm quote unquote doing all the right things, but deep down on the inside, I struggle with imposter syndrome, or I feel like I'm selling something that I don't really believe in. And it's funny how the what we do. There's a great book out there by Simon Sinek called "Start with Why." And it's a great book that I think helps people find an aspect of identity and essentially helps them know, like, hey, we got to start with what we believe and let that affect the actual things that we do and not the other way around. And it's so funny. So many times, especially as business owners, we find something to do that we're good at, and we hope that that in a way kind of pulls our identity along. And well, I'm Kenneth the business coach, or I'm Kenneth the soccer player. I'm the ballroom dancer. I am what I do, you know?
Yeah.
And although that looks really good for marketing on the outside and it looks really good for PR, it's not actually fulfilling on the inside because you know you're more than that. You know that there's something deeper beyond that. And yeah, I don't know that there's like a roadmap or a schematic to finding that, but I think just knowing you have to start with that before you actually define yourself by what you do. I think just even that is a great starting place. And there are great life coaches out there that this is why they exist to help
Yeah.
people really identify their identity and not just get it from what they do or who they hang out with or where they travel to and the nice cars and things that they have. You know, it's more than that.
Yeah, because I know I notice it in people who are in a job for many years. "Oh, I'm a Navy man, I'm a seaman, I'm a submariner," so their
Uh-huh.
identity is just attached to their job versus attention to their higher purpose of who they really are as a person, you know?
Yeah, and that travels generationally. Like how many sons and daughters do what their parents do, not because it's who they are, but it's just because it's what the family does. And I'm not downing cultures that's more prevalent in. But I think one of the beautiful parts about America, where I come from, is the beauty of valuing the individual. And although I'm all for the collective great and the unity that happens with groups of people and community and all that, I think the US does a really great job of highlighting the value of the individual and the uniqueness and the actual speciality of a son can be different than his father and still be just as valuable. You know, a daughter can do something different than her mother and be just as part of the community and just as valuable in the community and just as valuable in the family. So yeah, I think it's a great point that you brought up.
What is one lie high performers often believe about themselves?
Ooh, what is one lie that high performers often believe about themselves? Well, I'll speak to. I know I've shared a lot about myself. I'll speak to what I see a lot in clients because obviously a lot of business owners and founders and entrepreneurs are high performers in their own right in whatever industry they come from. And I would say the thing that high performers tend to believe the most often that is an absolute lie is the fact that I can do it all myself. You know that I'm Tom Brady, and not only can I throw the ball, I can run the ball, I can block, and I can catch the ball at the same time. You know, and I'll play defense, offense, and punt return. You know, I can do it all myself. I think it's I think it is the most limiting thing that a high performer can believe because it is the thing that I see cap people in their careers, in their businesses, in their family. I love there's a law that I don't know if somebody else coined it, but it's what I call it. It's called the law of the vacuum, and it's essentially this principle that um, I can do something 100% well. And in order for us to get 200% out of this, whatever it is, I need to be willing to create space for somebody else to come in at 60% or 50% or whatever it is in order for them to inevitably pass me and be trained and grow and be experienced in order to actually do maybe 120% of what I could do. And then eventually 50% and whatever that it is. And the law of the vacuum essentially says, I need to make room in order for this thing to double or for this thing to scale. I can only ever do 100% output. And even if that is great, it takes other people in order to scale, in order to actually grow. So yeah, I think it's one of the biggest lies that high performers believe is that they they have to do it all themselves in order to succeed. And I just think it burns people out, and oftentimes it repels other high performers.
Yeah.
High performers want to be on the field, they want to be in the game, they want to be in the moments that are the big moments. So I think being willing to create space for that is a necessity in a family, business. Like one of the things we recently did is even in like a family, we had us as siblings start doing all the family parties and stuff instead of the parents. And that's the parents creating room for us to develop responsibility for the family, you know? And it works the same way in business and in other enterprises.
Yeah, as and especially for new, not even the high performers, new business owners as well, and people who are having startup companies. They are they're the marketer, they're the salesperson, they're the tech person, everything they're doing on their
Yeah,
own, wearing those multiple hats, you know? But having somebody that is smarter than you or just as high performing as you, or maybe even just 60%, of what you are will help you skyrocket or get to the next level that you're looking for.
100%.
So, when did you realize leadership isn't about influence over others, but responsibility for yourself?
Ooh, another great question. This has been a great interview. This is awesome. Yeah, I'm sure if I were the audience listening, this would be great. I think I ran into a book when I was in my mid 20s by a guy named John C. Maxwell, and he's published literally over 100 leadership books, I think, at this point. And it was the laws of leadership and the irrefutable laws of leadership. And one of the ones that struck me the most, because I was just starting to manage teams and just starting to do the hiring and the training and the onboarding and just managing staff and teams, and getting into leadership. And of course, so that I picked up this book, and one of the chapters was all about essentially levels in leadership. And it was like, if you're a leader by position, that is actually the lowest level of leadership that there is. And the more I learned about this different perspective, which was essentially, like you said, the leader is responsible to the team more so, as much, if not even more so, than the team is responsible to the leader. The perspective shift that gave me, for a phrase that's often coined in my world, is like servant leadership. It definitely flipped it on its head in the way that I traditionally viewed it, because how I traditionally viewed leadership was exactly like you said. It's influence over people. It's to motivate and inspire and to get them to do something. And the more production you get out of the people you lead, the better a leader you are. And although I think the motivation behind that is great, yeah, I should absolutely want to help my people multiply and maximize their productivity. But how we get there comes from, I think, what you said, which is the second half of what you said, in that we are leaders that are responsible to the teams that we lead and the people that we influence. And that allows me to see the relationship and from the aspect of, I'm here to add value to you and increase your value, by the network that I can provide to you, the resources, the experience, the feedback, the accountability, all the things. It's more, I'm serving you. You're the customer and I'm the service delivery person. Not the other way around. Not my employees and my staff are my personal employees running around and doing what I want. Even though they literally are, it's the perspective doesn't actually yield the best result and the result that you actually want as a leader. So yeah, I think it's a that like what you said is just a great perspective and it's so practical for any if it's a single employee, if it's a staff, when you're developing onboarding and training systems, that mindset can get really, really practical for a business and for a leader.
Yeah, just being a servant leadership, versus position leadership. Being able to serve your team, serve them, teach them, learn and grow with them. It's a responsibility and the best part of being a leader, rather
Hmm.
than walk into the building and, oh, the boss is coming, the boss is coming.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. And how
uh,
many
th-
times does that happen, right? It happens
yeah,
all the time where teams produce less because the leader tries to assert more leadership. And the opposite, although that is true and it is true that they are they are in some type of leadership position and you are in a I'm responsible to the leader. That is how it is tangibly set up, but it's funny how when you flip it on its head, that actually is what makes the relationship work better. um and yeah, anytime that I've come into the perspective of, like you said, with servant leadership and with I'm responsible to these people as much as they are responsible to me, if not more, then all of the tangible things that we all wanted from the get go come way easier with way less stress, with way less friction. And honestly, the biggest ROI in that is normally staff retention goes through the roof. And then you can promote from within. And it's just so good for businesses and for really anyone to think about leadership like that.
so what is a leadership lesson that cost you the most personally to learn?
I think the number, and maybe people don't normally correlate this with leadership, but for me, uh, the lesson that a good leader is humble. It was very difficult for me and very costly for me to learn because I was, and not to speak for everybody out there, but I come from a Hispanic background. My grandpa's from Mexico City. And so obviously I was very ambitious growing up. I had a very, very large chip on my shoulder. And so when I got into leadership in my mid 20s and in the early stages of my career, leadership looked a lot like pride and it looked a lot like I have to have all the answers. I have to have the answers real quick, just like that. I have to assert myself and just all these different things that made me bigger and the other person smaller in order for them to know that this is how things,
Yeah.
that I'm as good as people have said I am type of thing. And so I think it was really costly because in my first handful of batches of staff, they all quit. Like they quit, they didn't produce a lot. And honestly, they didn't like me. And it was really, really sad. And as somebody that was I'm a faith-based person, but yet people don't like me at work. How is that possible? Or I'm a faith-based person, but I can't get people to stay around or be productive in their job. How is that possible? It took me learning that a good leader is a humble leader that I thought that would actually ruin me and my reputation and my authority. I thought it would undergird or under what's the word I'm looking for? That it would
Underqualify you?
Yes, that it would underqualify me for the role of being a leader, but the opposite was actually true. The more humility I embraced, which was really just embracing reality. Hey, I'm not perfect. Hey, I don't have all the answers. I am here to help you and to like you just said a minute ago, be responsible to your success as much as you're responsible for my success. This is not a one-way street. That was a big lesson, but it cost me many people not liking me, lots of staff turnover, and just failure for probably 3 or 4 years in a leadership role before I finally realized maybe humility is the way and not pride.
Yeah.
And since then, I mean, we've had staff that have gone to take over businesses and had our tenure go from under 2 years to over 6 years in terms of retention and staff. And it's funny how humility played an instant impact in the success of not just the employees that we were developing, but the business as a whole.
Yeah, most leaders live in a era of perfection and try to making everything look perfect, but not understanding having that vulnerability where people could connect with you and letting them know that not everything, I don't know everything, and I'm willing to learn and teach you and grow with you is the best part of leading an organization
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
or having those people around you that know more than you know, that are smarter than you that could help you, you know?
Yeah, yeah, always knowing that even if you're a big fish in a small pond, there's always a bigger pond where you're a small fish. And I think knowing that is actually super freeing because then I don't have to be everything to everyone. I can just know a lot of people and there's just a ton of ripple effect that humility will actually benefit you in your leadership journey versus burn bridges and um, actually cap other people's potential. Pride does a lot of things that people don't realize behind the scenes when they're leading from that perspective.
So I was gonna ask you something about so being a new business owner, what's a leadership weakness that's often disguised itself as a strength that you normally see in like coach business when you're coaching people with business?
I would say that the typical weakness that I find with like startups and new business owner is the aspect of their leadership that they want to be everything to everybody, especially when they're initially working with clients or contractors. The ability to niche your influence, because I'm very similar to John Maxwell. I love the idea that influence is leadership. And if you have influence, you have a role in leadership. And so for me, one of the weaknesses that I find is that people's perspective on leadership is that I got to be everything to everybody. If I'm in a room of any kind, I need to be at the head of the table and I need to be the one speaking up and sharing my thoughts all the time. And I need to be the one with the best idea and just I would call it over inserted leadership. And a lot of that weakness when people recognize it and they realize that the opposite of that is a better form of leadership, which is normally the kind of leadership that pulls out the best in others and inspires others to share their ideas and is essentially recognizing that their leadership comes into play later on in the funnel for the conversations or for decision making. Some of the best founders are always normally the ones that ask the best questions and pull the most out of somebody. So especially as me as a coach, the best founders actually they pull more out of me than some established business owners because the established business owner thinks that they know everything and I've got everything figured out. You're just here to kind of help me tweak and optimize. But a new founder that flips this weakness on its head, they're the ones that tend to be the most inquisitive and the most curious and the most open to pulling out the gold in others, not always trying to be the one that's has all the best ideas and is inserting themselves into every conversation and has to have the last word. I think that's one of the biggest weaknesses I find, especially with new business owners, is there's a lot of insecurity there. There's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of stuff making that come to the surface, it really hurts them in the
Hey, Kenneth, I'm just gonna say that you're sharing some wisdom and knowledge that maybe isn't supposed to be heard. So this is gonna be my thought process as I go through editing this episode so I can get it out to different people because
sounds good.
this has been some trust me, in life, in business, you're gonna have setbacks, you're gonna have challenges. And this has been one that I haven't seen before. So I'm welcoming it and just taking it as it goes, you know?
Yep, yep. We're the trailblazers, so if we've got to be the ones that have something happen for the first time, I'm open to it.
Now it's pouring rain.
The rain has
um,
arrived.
yeah. So just a few more questions. What are some tips that you would give to a new business owner or a founder that is just getting to start off or they're starting off struggling trying to find out where their foot lands? What would you tell them?
I think one of my favorite tips that I give people is it's hard to be frustrated with where your business is at as a startup when you've got more people asking you for your products than you have the ability to serve. So it's hard to be angry and upset when you have more leads than you actually have the ability to fulfill. So I think although there are 1,000 things that a new business owner can focus on, focusing on generating a pipeline of leads or people to serve or a wait list, that is the best and most peaceful place for you to be as a startup. And so many people get lost in all the things that happen in their journey as a startup, and many of them make them more stressed, not less stressed. And so, focusing on leads would be the place to start.
Thank you for being patient with me, Kenneth. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
you got it, man. You got it. You got it.
So I know you were sharing like some of the tips that you start off with to help new business owners.
Yes, yeah, I was talking about how the main thing that most startups, if they were to have just one thing that they apply, it's to apply the fact that they need to fill their lead pipeline, because it's hard to be upset, stressed, overwhelmed in your business in the beginning when you have more people that you have the ability to serve, or more people that want your services than you have the ability to serve. So that's a really great place to be. And it's so easy for new startups and business owners to get lost in the thousand things that don't actually produce an ROI really quickly, and actually cause you a lot more stress in the beginning. So, one of the best things that someone can do is for sure focus on the lead acquisition aspect and the lead funnel for your business first, and then let everything else come into play when it's time to come into play, like a website and like your email nurture campaigns and your sales funnel process, and all that stuff can be developed as you have clients to serve.
Yeah.
And it's so easy for new business owners to think, I've got to get all the.
Okay. So if someone spent a day listening to their self talk, what would it reveal about their future as a business owner?
Can you say it one more time?
If a business owner spent a day listening to their self talk, what would it reveal about their future?
Boy, well, it would pretty much prophetically tell what's going to happen. It's so funny when, so again, I just absolutely love, and John Maxwell's probably one of my favorite business leaders that I've ever learned from. And he talks about one of the things that was great that he did early on in his leadership journey, in his entrepreneurial journey, was he would go and pay somebody that he aspired to and was successful and had a successful business or a church at the time, and he would pay for him to uh, basically shadow them for a day. And what you're talking about how someone would converse not only with others but with themselves in their office or in specific meetings, how you talk about not others just, but also yourself, your business, your future. The things that come out of your mouth are actually really just green, yellow, or red flags that you need to pay attention to. And I would say it's almost like a lot of times business owners will say, "Man, I just wish I would have known that was going to happen. I wish I would have known they were going to leave. I wish I would have known that that wasn't going to work out. I wish I would have known that that was a bad idea." And oftentimes, it's so funny. Oftentimes, if someone would have recorded themselves, they probably had already told themselves it was going to happen. They had probably already revealed to themselves, this is going to be my future
Yeah.
in a week, in 6 months, in a year, whatever it is. So yeah, I think the things that come out of our mouth, and if we were to listen to ourselves throughout the day, it is a very determining factor of where we are subconsciously taking ourselves in the near future.
So, Kenneth, I got a few more questions for you, two to be exact. But before we get to those last two, what's something you thought I would ask, but I didn't really ask you?
I think the thing, and maybe you're going to ask it, there's still two more. The thing I thought you might ask is, Kenneth, what inspires you the most right now? That's what I thought you would be one of the questions. And it might still be. It might still be. It might still be.
No, I'm gonna be honest. That's not on the list, but what inspires you? What is that? Tell me
It's on
about
the
it.
list now.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Yeah, for me, the thing that inspires me the most right now is my pursuit of being a dad. The reason I get up every day and the reason that I do what I do, whether it's the stuff I do with my church or whether it's the stuff that I do with my wife or my business, literally everything that I do kind of gets funneled through this thing that inspires me the most, which is just getting the opportunity to be a dad. That is to me just like my dream come true. Like my wife and I are in this phase where we've pivoted a lot of things in our life so we could have a certain kind of lifestyle when we have kids. And the fact that we're getting to that place where we're, about to have kids and all that, that is I don't know, it just it when I wake up, it's just the thing that's on my mind all day long, and yeah, it just in a way, it makes me emotional even though it hasn't happened yet. Just being a dad, I'm like, "This is like my dream come true." To be able to provide and be able to have opportunity and be able to spend time, like, that's of course, there's gonna be a lot of things that aren't so inspiring in the moment, and changing diapers and stuff, but yeah, just for whatever reason, that is like the driving thing within me right now for sure.
So you could definitely hear the difference in your voice, compared to when you first talked about like working on the dance competition and getting it and then getting there to now inspiring yourself to have children. And it's a whole different vibe. So it seems more fulfilling than that trophy that you had.
Yes, yes. Totally 100%. Yeah. Yeah, you nailed it.
What part of your life would look completely different today if you believed you were already enough?
Hmm. Well, I think 2 things would look differently. I honestly think we would have already had kids at this point, and I think the other aspect of something that would have already happened that hasn't because of, the enough statement that you mentioned is I think I would have already, and I know this might sound strange, but I think I would have already had a more established, I'll call it friend group. It's so easy to kind of hide your true self when you don't feel like you're enough. And that, of course, inhibits you from doing things like accomplishing things and, doing things like that, achieving things. But one of the things that it's done the most for me in terms of holding me back is it's held me back from actually getting closer to people. And as an adult, it takes a lot of intentionality and sacrifice, really, even to have really great friendships. And that's something that we've got a few really great best friends. And I think if I would have known I was enough sooner, not only would I have not waited as long to be a dad, but I also would have opened myself up sooner to more people and had more really, really great weighty friendships that of course I have a few now, but it's like, man, how much more could I have had along the way thinking of such and so person? And yeah, those are the two most meaningful parts of my life, the family and friends. Those are the two things I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So, last question for you. Imagine someone is listening right now. They're successful on paper, but privately they feel stuck, exhausted, and disconnected from who they are. What's the first question they need to ask themselves?
I think the question that they need to ask themselves is, what is really success for me? Because when you ask what is really success for me, it helps you define not only what success is, but it helps you personalize it to your own fulfillment meter. And if you're successful, but you're stuck or you're feeling trapped in this successful life or role that you've built, asking the question, what is successful to me? Um, that will help you not only build a path and build a path towards what will actually fulfill you in the long run, but it will actually set you free in the moment too. Even if you're still doing what you're doing, still where you are, y- still are where you've been, it'll be a lot more it'll be a lot more fulfilling to actually not only just remain where you are, but actually start progressing to where you want to be. And it'll help you define what that looks like. It'll help you actually get a grasp on things we talked about earlier, your real identity, the things that really motivate and fulfill you. Um, that would be the question that I would say if you're super, super successful, but you're feeling super trapped and stuck, asking the question of what is successful to me, that will help you not just escape, but it will help you actually have peace where you currently are until you actually do build that bridge from where you are to where you really want to be.
It's powerful because most of us, we don't understand the true meaning of success. We see people with the fancy cars, the Lambos, the Maseratis, whatever it is, the big house and diamonds, rings, all that stuff, jewelry. But for some people, they don't want all that, you know? And I think you hit the nail on the head, just being true to who you are and figuring out what success means to you, because maybe you may want $100 million to be successful, but for somebody else, they're $100,000 a year and being able to pay off all their bills, that may be success for somebody, you know? And success just means some difference to some other people. So I like that you share that.
Yeah, there have been a few markers, not plenty. There have been a few markers in my life where I realized success to me was different than what I was currently pursuing. And so I chose to either have less fame and notoriety in whatever I was coming from because that wasn't really fulfilling to me, or decided like I'm going to purposely either slow the process of making more money or purposely make less money in order to actually live in a way that's more fulfilling to me than if I had the money but didn't have my time or didn't have energy or whatever it is. So yeah, it's funny how it's a sacrifice in the short term normally to try and pivot to what's actually fulfilling to you, but in the long run, not only do you probably get back what you gave up anyway, but you get even more, and with peace and fulfillment and satisfaction and inspiration and motivation that comes from the inside, not externally through things that you get or places you travel or people you surround yourself by. So yeah, having it come from the inside is worth the short-term sacrifice in order to pivot to what's really successful to you.
Last question is, what truth might they be afraid to hear? That same person that's going through all of that, what's one truth that they may be afraid to hear?
I'll say what I said earlier. It's part of the thread of this entire conversation. You cannot do it alone. Even asking that question, oh, what is successful to me? Like I said earlier, it's very difficult to look in the mirror and tell yourself the truth. It's a lot easier for the truth to be revealed to you, even though it's more painful. It's more true when it comes from another person, or it helps you see the truth more when it's coming from another person. So finding that one person that you can be real in front of and receive the truth from. The one thing I would say to that person is you cannot do it alone. So find that one person that will make all the difference. It'll help it go smoother, faster, and it'll be better in the long run if you do that.
Hey, Kenneth, I just want to thank you for coming on here, sharing your knowledge, sharing your expertise, and sharing your heart. I appreciate it. And if you guys are listening and Kenneth said anything that resonates with you, go ahead and let's have a conversation in the comment section. Comment, share what your biggest insight was. And thank you all for subscribing. Thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you guys on the next episode of Be Inspired Podcast, where we're inspiring you to live the abundant life you deserve. Have a great week.